Diamond level analysis of Walpurga versus Earwig. Terran versus a random who spawned as Terran. Alright. So, as I've been informed, that this is actually a weird game. And we will see that you actually start off with a very early scout into a proxy barracks. Now, I don't know how I feel about proxy barracks, because generally, if you proxy, like, this map is already so short that proxying a barracks wouldn't really do you much. But that's not the main point. The main point here is, in silver, I don't think you'll get too much value out of proxying this barracks, other than just to maybe troll your opponent. But if you're trying to troll your opponent, then you said you wanted me to seriously analyze this game, which is kind of weird. So, proxy barracks into a second barracks into gas. This could be a good for a Reaper opening, but generally, when you do proxy barracks, you would usually proxy 2 or 3, and then if you're going gas, then you would make Reapers out of all of them, because the strength in Reapers is numbers. One-on-one, they can kill a Marine, but 2 Marines kill a single Reaper really quickly. So the more Reapers you have, the stronger the proxy is, which is why when you proxy, you never usually just go for a single barracks. So we also see a third barracks coming in, and you make a Reaper. But then I notice you actually make Marines from this barracks, and you also make Marines from this barrack, which generally is not done, because then the Reaper you make here is not really gonna be able to do much on its own, since Reapers aren't that strong in small numbers. Reapers are strong in large numbers. In small numbers, they're mostly just used to kill maybe a few workers, pick off maybe 1 Marine, and then they just are mostly used for scouting. And that's because Reapers have this ability called the KDA charge, which does 10 damage and briefly makes the unit jump into the air so they can't attack for a while. So the more Reapers you have, the more of this ability you can use, so the stronger they become. And as you can see here, yeah, that really was not worth it at all. Because in order to properly control mass Reapers, you also need to have a lot of micro abilities, which means that your macro will generally suffer. And even like diamond level players would struggle trying to macro and control a bunch of Reapers at the same time. So we're just going to ignore this proxy for now, and we're just going to focus on your base. So right now, you're not making any SCVs, and you're also not getting an orbital, but you could be. But the thing is, you have too many Marines queued up. If you unqueue 2 Marines, you can have enough money to convert this to an orbital. So that's something that's really noticeable early game. Like later on in the game, queuing up is fine, but as you can see here, when you have 2 Marines queued up that's not being made, you don't have the money to make an orbital. Whereas if they weren't queued, you could make an orbital. That's why you should try not to queue them as early as possible. Oh yeah, look, even 3 Marines being queued, like 2 Marines being queued here. So you could totally be converting this to an orbital right now. And this is something that you should try and not do early game. Like after maybe 5 minutes, then you can go ahead and queue up. You can queue SCV. Queuing SCVs is okay, but everything else you should try not to queue them if you can like afford something better, like getting this orbital right now. A bit of a supply block here, which isn't a big deal. But the thing is, you should get the orbital before the SCV. I mean, you should get an orbital as soon as possible, simply because an orbital lets you use mule, and mules are really good, basically. I noticed you actually accidentally canceled this here, which is kind of bad. Try not to do that. It really happens sometimes, but try not to cancel this building. So, you notice your supply blocked. So in the meantime, instead of having all of these units queued, you could cancel some of them and convert this to an orbital as well. So when you're reviewing your own replay, it's good to have the production tab on, so you can see what you're making at all times. And we see right now, you're not making any SCVs, and you want to make SCVs if you're going to go for macro. Because you are going for macro, that's why you're making the second base, right? If you're on one base, then yeah, it makes sense, but you're going for a second base, so just keep making SCVs. Another thing is, you're making a bit too many barracks right now. Generally, if you're on one base, you want probably at most 4 barracks, but now you're about to have 5. But then that does not include factory and starport. If you add factory and starport, then you only want 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport. But then when you get to the second base, then you can add up to 5 barracks. So right now you're adding too many barracks, and really all this money should be going towards this orbital command. And you also have more money if you actually where's the building SCVs, because you could still afford like a few more SCVs in here. So you do this attack, which is actually okay. Nothing wrong with this. But the tricky thing about pure Marines in TvT is, of course, tanks are really good versus Marines. So this space is done. Are you not using control groups? Do I have that right? You're not using control groups, so that's going to make it a lot harder for you to macro. Generally you want to put your command center into one control group and your production to another control group. But I do it differently. I put my barracks in one control group, and my factory in another control group, and my starport in another control group. This is really personal preference, but you want all of them in the control group so that every so often you press it and see whether you can build more stuff. So right now, could be building SCVs. Now you only start building this SCV. But you're not building any SCVs here. Only here. Whereas you could be producing SCVs out of both of them right now. So that's the importance of using control groups. Because then, if you're here, if you're looking at this position, just press the control group and look down here. You'll see whether or not you can produce SCVs or not. Or look down here, rather. For example, like if you're here, press the control group and you can see nothing's being produced. Press it. So, opponent's doing some fancy drops, but his macro is really bad. You can tell by the amount of minerals he has. Generally, your goal is to stay below 400. I would say that's a good goal to aim for. But even at high level, it sometimes goes up this high. Like, it's unavoidable sometimes. But you should try. Like, it's okay if you go higher, but you should try to keep it below 400. It's especially early game. Like, the longer the game goes, the harder it is to avoid keep getting your minerals higher, because like the fight starts happening and you sometimes lose focus. But especially early game, you should try to not have too much minerals. So far you're doing pretty well. But the thing is, you have no economy. It's good that you're spending your money, but at the same time, most of your money should be going towards SCVs, unless you have some reason to not build them, such as like going one base all in. And from what I can see, that's not your plan right now. So you should really be prioritizing your SCVs at this moment. Well, not prioritizing, just building them at this moment. And the reason is simple, because sure, you have 2 bases, but if you don't have the SCV mining, you're not going to have the income. Building SCVs improve your economy, which gives you more money to macro better. It's good that you can macro, right? Like, your money is low right now, which means you're macroing pretty well given your current economy, but your economy could be even better, and you could have even more units than what you could already achieve. This is good. So of course your opponent's going to go for the base trade, which actually happens a lot in TvT, but not so much in other matchups. That makes TvT TvT is actually one of the hardest matchups, probably. So it's alright. Honestly, at this point, you should win, because you're on 2 base. And if we check, we can check not the productions tab, the units tab. You see that you have more marines than him, and he only has like 1 more tank than you. He has some medevacs, but he doesn't have his we can check his upgrades, and neither of you have any upgrades. And we can also check your active forces. So yeah, you have more invested into your forces at this point. Now, at a higher level, you probably wouldn't win, but at this level, I would say you should win, because you have more units than him. And you would have even more units if you were producing SCVs at all of both of these command centers and mining. So just kill his base. Just kill his base. You can fly these buildings away as well. Which, since you know it's going to be a base trade, might as well. Well, the thing here now is he has no command centers, but he has no supply depots, so there is absolutely no way he can build any more units. So all you have to do is, if you had saved him, then that would be nice, but if not, just build a few more barracks, and there's practically should be no way he can come back from this. Although it would have been nice if you saved that command center too. I mean, all you have to do now is defend and get some barracks. Or actually, you still have this 1 barracks, and eventually you'll just have too many for him. because there's absolutely nothing he can make anymore, since he has no more supply depots and no more command center to make workers. I'd be surprised if you don't win. And again, in a base trade scenario, that's generally when money piles up. Just go ahead and make more barracks. Which, okay, you're doing that. That's good. So, I wonder if you saw that coming. Yeah, he was dropping, and you knew he had some medevacs. I would advise you to just not move your units around and just defend at this point, because at this point you should see that your opponent's revealed. You can see his barracks here, you can see his units here, you can see this here, you can see everything. There's no point scanning because he is revealed. Maybe you don't know this, but once you kill all of the opponent's command centers, all of their buildings are revealed. There's not, like, all you have to, this is not going anywhere, this is not going anywhere, this is not going anywhere. You see that there, like, you can see there's no supply depots anywhere, so you know there's nothing he can do. He can't build anything. So all you have to do is defend, and you will win. So this drop comes in, which is really bad for you because your army's out of position. This is what I mean a higher level. Having more Marines doesn't always mean winning because tanks are really good. Honestly, I think this is just a case of you not realizing the game mechanic that once all of your opponent's building dies, you can see all of his buildings. If you'd known that, there is absolutely no reason to move your army out. All you have to do is defend, and you win. So, with that said, I think you could have did this a bit better. Like, instead of putting all your Marines here to die, walk them up the ramp. And you probably couldn't because your supply depots are up. But you don't really have, you don't have to worry too much about that because this is really just small stuff. But overall, the main thing is if you made sure you were making your SCVs, you would have way more units than you do now. And even if this happened, you still shouldn't have won. So I would advise next time, if you have a game that you're not sure why you lost, right now you should work on, I would say right now just make sure your production is doing well. So start up the game, load up the replay, go to production, and just watch if you have any gaps. Right now, so far so good. SCV's not building a bit, okay. No SCVs a bit, no SCVs. There's a gap, okay, there's an SCV. This is good. There's a bit of a gap here. Bit of a gap. Like, gaps are bad. This is good. So, if you can just do that, and just try to reduce the gap in SCV as much as possible, then I think you will be on your way to gold. So good luck with that, and I think you're already doing pretty well, so hope you have fun.